Good morning and happy Valentine's Day. So Reverend Scott does this at the end of the services a lot, but Kim Gunderson would like it too. In sign language, I love you. I love you. Can we all practice and do that to each other on the screen? I love you. I love you. And I love people. And people probably wonder, how do these services come about? How do they how do we get to this point where we come up with themes and people talking and all that stuff? Well, we were in a meeting back in November or December, I can't remember, and Valentine's Day fell on a Sunday. I thought that was so cool. How fun, February 14th. And so then I was thinking, oh, I wonder what we could do for Valentine's Day. And then I thought of some conversations I've had with some people, and they met in the Peace Corps on tropical islands and fell in love. And I thought, that is Valentine's Day. We need to do that. And then I said to someone, what are the chances in one church to have two different couples, not just one, but two, who met in the Peace Corps on a tropical island, fell in love? I mean, I was really excited. I was picturing like The Bachelor or Bachelorette, but Peace Corps style. But anyway, that's how the service kind of came about. And we have so many awesome people. It grew into this beautiful thing. It took on a life of its own. And it's about a love of service, a love of the people that we serve. And I found out also that there were some people I didn't know about, like Maggie Miller, who is in our church, and she served in Chile in 1963 to 1965, and Brad Porterfield, he served in Uruguay. So it's not even a complete list. And if you served in the Peace Corps and we don't even know about you, then make sure you chat or tell someone about what you've done, because we'd love to know that about you. Well, you all have a story. And at the end, we're going to have breakout rooms after this service. And we're going to try and make it so that a different Peace Corps person is in every different breakout room. But this is what I want you to think about as the service continues. And that is how your life has been blessed and how you were incredibly blessed when you served. And here you were going to serve others, and yet you got more out of it than anything. And it was such a beautiful thing. And why we don't talk about our love of service even more, but why not on Valentine's Day? So the first beautiful person I want to introduce you to right now is Don Hartzell.
Hi. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Central Oregon. We are an inclusive community that affirms the mind, heart, and body in our search for truth and meaning. Here you will find both comfort and challenge for your spiritual journey. Whatever your age, your income, or the color of your skin, you are welcome here. Whatever your sexual orientation, gender identity, or your life story, you are welcome here. If you are full of joy today or your heart is hurting, you are welcome here. If your beliefs differ from mine, but you are called to love, you are welcome here. And I'm going to begin, as Randy said, my name is Don Hartzell. I'm going to begin with my Peace Corps experience. My experience with the Peace Corps began just after I earned a doctorate in clinical psychology at the University of Florida in 1964. Now, at that time, I had a wife and 3 small children, and there was absolutely no way the Peace Corps would consider anybody with that kind of constellation as a volunteer. But I was invited to be a staff member as a field assessment officer. I served on the staff of the first 2 Peace Corps training projects that were ever held at the University of Florida. As a field assessment officer, I was active in the training process, but I also gathered information that would be pertinent to the selection of trainees to become volunteers before they went overseas. Our first project sent volunteers to Brazil, mainly in agriculture. The second one prepared volunteers for Jamaica and British Honduras. British Honduras is now Belize. Up to this point, the Peace Corps had trained all potential volunteers completely within the United States, but it was rethinking that practice. The second project turned out to be an experiment for the Peace Corps to see if some of the training could be held what the Peace Corps called in country, that is, outside the United States. So for 30 days during the late 1964, our training project was conducted in the American Virgin Islands. As part of their training, trainees took on work assignments in the Virgin Islands. Sometimes these proved to be a bit of a challenge. For example, one teacher of a 4th grade class was a teacher in the Virgin Islands. On meeting her female Peace Corps assistant for the first time said, "Good luck with the class, because tomorrow I'm taking a plane to New York and I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks." Well, with no prior teaching experience, that Peace Corps trainee did a magnificent job and became an outstanding volunteer later on. Our experience in the Virgin Islands was successful. Thereafter, most Peace Corps trainings would take part of their training in country. That could help them learn the culture of the place they were going to, and also practice better on the language if it was different from English, which it usually was. So my experience with the Peace Corps has had a lasting effect on me personally and professionally. When Delight and I helped to start a community crisis intervention hotline in Lafayette, Indiana, years later in the early 70s, I knew volunteers would come forward, and they did in great numbers, as for my experience with the Peace Corps. And they've been coming forward for that program for the last 50 years. It's had a profound effect on me and my personally and professionally ever since 1964. And I think you're going to find the same message from other volunteers as we go through this service. Thank you, Randy, for including me.
So our opening song today, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, it's intended to honor not just romantic love, but the love of service and of fellow humans that will be exemplified later. So please join me in singing When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes. Heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell a story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, We are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of a sacred place and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Good morning. I am Joan Landsberg. As a Peace Corps volunteer in 1964 to 1966, I served in Costa Rica. That's a country in Central America. I lived in the largest city I've ever lived in, around 400,000, and I taught in the chemistry department at the University of Costa Rica. Two things that I learned in the Peace Corps have stayed with me for these over 50 some years. The first is that the US is only one country, and it's no more important to most people, to many people, and most people in the world than is their own country. And second, that I eventually identified with the people of Costa Rica and learned how precious their country is to them. I came to love both the Costa Ricans and to understand their love for their country, and also for me to love what makes Costa Rica, Costa Rica. Understanding that we can truly identify with someone or a country that is not ours initially, I'd like you to think on these words from Rumi, the 13th century poet, as I light today's chalice. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there.
Now please join me in our singing of the chalice lighting response, Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Good morning. I'm Chela Sloper, your congregational life facilitator, and I have today's announcements. Firstly, Jonathan Bile has me on notice to make top billing for the blood drive, which is scheduled for Wednesday, March 3rd. And the reason why this is exciting for us is that it's going to be at our building. And the link has been in this last week's ACE. And you can sign up. There's still plenty of opportunities throughout the day. Appointments for donations begin at 11, they end at 5. There's still a lot of openings. So please, if you want to serve our neighbors in this way, that would be really lovely. Another opportunity to be in our building will be on Wednesday, the 24th, not this Wednesday, but the following week. We'll have an open sanctuary again from 10 in the morning till 6 at night, which will be an opportunity to be in our space together. We'll be wearing masks. We'll have contact tracing for any COVID vulnerabilities, but that's an opportunity to be at our building and to be grounded in our sense of being together. So for those who haven't been at the building, and particularly newcomers, you may not be aware that we have a kiosk with all sorts of announcements and ways to learn about Unitarian Universalism and our congregation. And so in lieu of that, and we'll probably continue doing this for the foreseeable future, but today at 12:30, we have a newcomers welcome. It's a separate Zoom link. You can go to our calendar, uufco.org/calendar, and click on the link at 12:30. So our membership team is going to be just sharing some things about what it means to be a part of UUFCO, and everyone's welcome, whether you consider yourself a newcomer or not. Speaking of newcomers, if there are people visiting for the first or second time, let us know that you're here. You can sign up for our communications, which we call the ACE, the All Congregational Email. And that's a way that you can learn more about us, hear what's going on in the life of the congregation, and that we'll stay in touch with you as well. So a couple of things looking farther down the road of time. In April, we'll have our virtual auction, and it's called What's Behind the Cover. And so the thought is to just think about books and what you might want to create using a book, or it's been suggested a gift basket with a theme of a particular book, or a bookmark, or a lap blanket with a book theme, or whatever. So it's just all manner of books. We like to read in this congregation, and we love books and learning. So that's an opportunity for us to use our creativity for the auction. So that'll be April 23rd is the kickoff party. Bidding and all that will happen on that weekend in April 23rd to 25th. So the camping group is already getting rolling. There are campouts that are planned from May onward, and more information about that group is in the ACE. So there's things starting to burst up, seeds that have been planted. Talking about seeds planted, I have the pleasure now of introducing Linda Johnson, who's the co-chair of our stewardship team. And the theme for this year's stewardship campaign is planting hope for what comes next. So this is a way that Linda is going to draw upon your congregational gardening for what comes next. Oh,
thank you, Chayla.
blessings on your day.
Thank you, Chayla. Good morning. It's my pleasure today to give you an update on our pledge campaign as we move towards our goal of $440,000. As of today, we've received 98 pledges totaling $282,961, which is about 64% towards our goal. And today marks the midway point. So we're a little bit ahead, which is great. And I want to say a big thank you to those people who have already donated. On the other side of the coin, only about 40% of our community has pledged. And by today, we should have had at least 50%. I know that it's been a difficult year. You may be wondering, how do I get the kids to school safely and keep the family safe? How do I get the vaccine? When will they call me? Will I sign up? How can I make my rent or my essential expenses this month? How long do I have to keep wearing this mask? It's just a lot of stress, and I know that it's easy to forget. So if you haven't mailed your pledge in yet, I ask you to do that, because this year more than ever, it's really important that every single person pledge, no matter what the amount. As part of our campaign every year, we have a speaker on Sunday who speaks and shares their own personal experience of why they're here and what they value at UUFCO. And it's my pleasure today to introduce our speaker, who is a newer member of our community. Catherine Smith is an executive coach and an organizational consultant based here in Bend. She hails from the East Coast, but is considered Oregon home since 2014. She juggles her time coaching clients and raising two strong girls with her partner, Derek, who is an orthopedic surgeon. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Catherine Smith.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Smith, and I've been a member of UUFCO since 2020, early 2020. I just want to also thank Linda Johnson and the stewardship team for inviting me to offer an extra perspective. My family and I'm the mother of two young women. Zinnia is almost 6 years old and Lucia is 3. And my partner Derek and I moved to Central Oregon in the middle of 2019. And I remember getting at my bearings in the community and of Bend and realizing that building caught my attention, the building, as the experience that so many of us have had. And I remember Derek and I having a conversation. We were like, yeah, we're gonna check it out, even though we weren't actively looking for a community of faith at the time. But slowly we decided that there was going to be, I guess, a Sunday that we were going to check it out. And bit by bit, I remember feeling nervous. I remember feeling a bit shy, and I'm sure my girls felt the same way. But what really stood out to me from the get-go was the time for all ages and the arc of love as just the sweetest rituals that made my girls feel very important. And therefore made our family feel really welcome. Adding to those wonderful things, of course, the fact that childcare welcomed my youngest with open arms, and Zinnia took to the RE classes and everything that was shared with her week to week. And Sunday by Sunday, we realized that these were some rituals that were going to be incorporated into our lives. And even further, we started to sign up for meals for Bethlehem Inn and have since gotten more involved. And we're so glad that we did. 2020 has obviously changed a lot. I remember in the lockdown, the beginning of the lockdown, my oldest Zinnia asked me several times, like, when the sickness is done, are we going to be able to go back? When can we go back? And it was then that I realized that UUFCO had really imprinted on us, that the seeds had been planted in our family for ritual, for community, a community that feels like a family, where grown-ups take an interest in what young people have to say, young people are empowered to teach, where curiosity and acts of service and inclusion and generosity and questioning are totally normal and expected and encouraged. And while my girls are so young, I know that the modeling of our community has been really, really important to them. That seeds are being planted around these ideas of being safe, of asking questions, of feeling included. And it really isn't, at the end of the day, just about the impact on my family. It's about the impact that UUFCO can have on all different kinds of families. The reach, and that is what we wanted to support, not just the way that we have benefited as a more resilient family as a result, sort of directly, but knowing that through the stewardship campaign and through especially difficult times, that we wanted to give as much as we could in order to ensure that this feeling that we have is available to all kinds of families across Central Oregon and farther. So whenever we drive by the building, or we log into a Zoom service or a Zoom class, or we see folks from UU on the sidewalk, we feel like we are part of a community. And we're just so grateful for that, grateful for the resilience it's brought to us, and grateful for the resilience of UUFCL in the future as our children grow and as our family grows as well. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Amy Brock, and I'm the Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth. Today, we're listening to some stories from those who served in the Peace Corps. On March 1st, 1961, President John F. Kennedy signed an executive order establishing the Peace Corps as a new agency within the Department of State. After March 1st, thousands of young Americans began volunteering with the Peace Corps, and later a more permanent Peace Corps was introduced. Its goal was to promote world peace and friendship by helping people who wanted to help other countries, and by giving people in other countries an opportunity to get to know Americans, and by giving Americans the opportunity to learn more about the world outside of the United States. At one time, there were 15,000 volunteers in more than 52 countries. And as of last year, there are more than 7,000 Peace Corps volunteers serving 60 countries. That's a whole lot of helpers. In his inaugural address, President Kennedy called for people to ask not what their country can do for them, but to ask what they can do for their country. Our 6th UU principle says that we believe in working toward a peaceful, fair, and free world. And so I wonder if we might spend some time today thinking about how we are each doing that in our homes, in our community, and around the world today. And so ends our time for all ages. Let's all say the Children's Covenant. In this place, I am kind. In this place, I am loving. In this place, I'm a friend to the earth and all animals and people. In this place, I am loved.
Good morning. My name is Herb Blank. I wanted to invite you today to join in Joys and Sorrows time. First of all, I'll share with you a little bit of my experience and my joy, which was joining the Peace Corps many years ago. The chat box is now open, so while I rattle on, you're welcome to give your own, share your own joys and sorrows. I was inspired by JFK's words many years ago about serving your country, and I enrolled in the Peace Corps in 1968 and was assigned, along with 50 other volunteers thereabouts, to Swaziland, which is a country in Southern Africa, small country bordering South Africa. It's now called Eswatini, which is the Southern African name, the Swazi name for Swaziland. We were the first volunteers in this recently independent country. We served in various capacities, small business, rural development, and as teachers. I helped bring new math, the new way of teaching mathematics at the time, to middle school Swazis. In return, we as volunteers got to travel, though we couldn't travel to South Africa at that time during apartheid. And we were exposed to a taste of the culture and life of Africa in various countries. Got a clearer picture of where we wanted the future of our lives to head. I chose the area of water resources and irrigation, which was my career, and exposed to the culture of Africa, and got a clear picture of where we wanted to head our future lives. And we had the opportunity to bond with our students and colleagues and fellow volunteers, and that bonding has continued through the years. Our volunteer group has had a 50-year reunion, and we've gotten together via Zoom during this period of COVID, and we have plans for another live reunion when that becomes possible. Thank you for listening to my spiel. Thanks, bye now.
Good morning. I'm Dick Falsa, and this is my soon-to-be husband, Randy King. And as a Peace Corps volunteer, I spent 2 years in a new colonization area in Colombia, helping new communities get roads, schools, and local democratic government structures. Right now, I'd like to say to my Colombian neighbors and friends, I will not forget your kindness when I needed it so much. It's how we love. And that's the lyrics to this song, How We Love.
Life has taught me this, every day is new, and if anything is true, all that matters when we're through is how we love. Faced with what we lack, some things fall apart, but from the ashes new dreams start. All that matters to the heart is how we love. How we love. How we love. From the smallest act of kindness, in a word, a smile, a touch. In spite of our mistakes, chances come again. If we lose or if we win, all that matters in the end is how we love. How we love, how we love. I will not forget your kindness when I needed it so much. Sometimes we forget, trying to be so strong in this world of right and wrong. All that matters when we're gone, all that mattered all along, all we have that carries on is how we love.
I joined the Peace Corps at age 22, embracing the idealism of changing the world. Never did I expect that I would find my life partner, Michael, or that the only thing that would be profoundly changed would be me. After moving from India to the Washington, D.C. area at age 12, I had mostly spent my time in the northeast coast of the U.S., including going to college in upstate New York, until I flew to Fiji in 1992 to be a secondary school teacher through the Peace Corps. Fiji was the most logical country for the Peace Corps to send me because 50% of the population there spoke Fiji Hindi, an offshoot of the Hindi language spoken in India, a language I was fluent in. Fiji Hindi is one of the 3 major languages of Fiji because over 150 years prior, the British colonizers had brought over people from India as indentured laborers to work Fiji's sugarcane fields. The other two predominant languages spoken in Fiji are the Melanesian language called Fijian and the former colonizers' language, English, of course. Michael and I noticed each other on our flight over to Fiji. I quickly learned that he grew up in Oregon, a state I knew nothing about other than it once had a standoff between its police and an Indian guy named Swami Rajneesh. And also, I had seen some beautiful greenery in mountains of Oregon from this terrible movie called Kindergarten Cop. But those facts alone had created a curiosity in me about Oregon. So when I met a true Oregonian, I was immediately interested. Fairly quickly, we found ourselves seeking each other's company, and I became Michael's language study partner during our 2-month training period, which pretty much meant that I was going to help him learn Hindi and also just hang out with him. Once training ended, we got our site assignments, and he and I were placed on the opposite sides of the island, which meant roughly a 4-hour commute via local transportation. We committed to seeing each other on as many weekends as possible by alternating travel to visit the other and writing letters in between if we were going to go more than 2 weeks without seeing each other, since there was no other way for us to communicate in between those times otherwise. Once at my site, I was responsible for teaching 7th through 10th graders basic science and 11th through 12th graders biology. Within a month of teaching, shockingly, I discovered that about 45% of my 7th to 10th graders did not know how to read at all. The Fijian education system is set up in such a way that you get promoted through every grade up to 10th grade, regardless of your literacy skill. Then at the end of 10th grade, you sit for a national exam, and only if you pass that exam do you go on to 11th grade. My school had at best a pass rate of about 5% out of 10th grade, and everyone else dropped out of school at that point. When I went to my principal in horror of my discovery that so many of my students didn't know how to read, he laughed and said, I was wondering when you were going to figure that out. Well, now that you know who they are, you can ignore them and only focus on those who know how to read so that they can pass. Not accepting that response, I decided to start an after-school mentoring program where I took volunteer 11th and 12th graders who would be willing to help their younger schoolmates to learn how to read. Not knowing anything about how to teach students to read, I found that this was not easy. Despite any efforts, many of the kids could not make much headway in learning how to read. Something I only many years later realized after speaking with teachers in the US, that there was a good chance that many of these kids had undiagnosed learning disabilities that created barriers to learning to read by traditional methods. They needed special education, something I clearly was not qualified or equipped to provide. The only exception was one student who told me that his motivation to learn how to read was so he could write a letter to his father, who had left him and his family unannounced a few years ago, and he wanted to ask him why he left them. Fortunately, with some support from me and other older students over the next year, he was able to read and did finally send a letter to his father and write as my time in Fiji was coming to an end. He told me that his dad had written back and that there was a chance he was going to get to meet with his father across the island. Even though I was frustrated in my inability to affect change, what I was so fortunate for was to be embraced by the parents of my students who welcomed me into their homes, shared their meals and stories with me, and showed me love that went far beyond any words. While many of my students may not have been able to read, they were hardworking and talented in ways far beyond the traditional forms of measure. They humbled me as they became my better teachers. As our plane took off from Fiji at the end of our Peace Corps stint, and we watched the island that had become our biggest world for the previous 2 years disappear in a matter of few seconds into the vastness of blue Pacific Ocean, Michael and I held hands, feeling so much gratitude for the many shared laughs, tears, and worries that we both held in our hearts with our Fiji communities, and immense gratitude for having found each other to what we hoped would be a lifetime of togetherness.
Like Divya, I thought I would bring my service to a new place, a new country. This I pictured was in the form of deeds to be done. I pictured digging ditches, bringing classrooms of kids new education. This was the first time I was leaving North America. I had no idea what to expect. Little did I know my life would be changed forever. In the medium-sized community in Fiji, where I was a high school and college-level biology teacher, I was taught love and compassion. Families welcomed me into their homes to share. They were excited to share who they were, what their life was, and how they worshiped and lived. I was inspired by somebody, in particular a high school student, that informed me that she was dedicated to becoming a doctor. She studied her biology texts in conditions unimaginable to high school students here. The richness of those relationships are the deepest lasting experiences that I've ever had. When we came back many years later to Fiji, homes again were opened, excitement filled the air, and time was too short. We also found out that the dedicated biology student was well on her way to becoming a doctor. She did realize those dreams a few years later. I am grateful to have been part of her journey. The kinship we built with other volunteers has also been lifelong. Swapping stories of inward reflection and outward discovery, we to this day share a service of fellowship. I learned to have faith that there is truth in love, and I did fall in love. I went with a youngster's ego and was taught the humility, love, and compassion of people, community, and service.
Happy Valentine's Day. When I joined the Peace Corps, I wasn't a UUer. In fact, I'd never heard of UUs till after my Peace Corps service. But in reading our covenant, which we do here each week, one can see the alignment between UU values and the goals of the Peace Corps. Since you're familiar with our covenant, and we'll be reading it together later in the service, I'll skip that for now, and instead read you a snippet from the birth of the Peace Corps. On September 22nd, 1961, Kennedy signed congressional legislation creating a permanent Peace Corps that would promote world peace and friendship through 3 goals. 1, to help peoples of interested countries in meeting their needs for trained men and women. 2, to help promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of peoples served. And 3, to help promote a better understanding of other peoples on the part of Americans. Service, relationship, understanding, love, and the promotion of peace. The UUFCO covenant and the Peace Corps goals share very similar values. And so we are here with you today on Valentine's Day, a day to celebrate love, because we joined the Peace Corps to serve our country and the world by promoting peace through friendship and understanding. And we found our love for each other amidst this joy. Now we'll attempt to share a picture, more realistically just a thumbnail, of our Peace Corps experiences and our journey into love on a small island in the Caribbean that is approximately the same size of Bend and had the same population of 65,000 people as did Bend when we moved here almost 20 years ago.
The space between the idea of something and its reality is always wide and deep and dark. The longer they are kept apart, the idea of thing, the reality of thing, the wider the width, the deeper the depth, the thicker and darker the darkness. This is a quote by Jamaica Kincaid, the Antiguan author whose work I'd eventually get to know after learning that I'd been nominated for a Peace Corps volunteer position in the twin island nation of Antigua and Barbuda. Her words describing the depth and width of a heart's longing being denied are what over time propelled me to join the ranks of other peace-loving folks and entering into his 2-year service commitment with the Peace Corps. The pull from my heart's compass was too strong not to move forward with this life dream. For me, that meant leaving behind the comfort of my young adult life that I'd created for myself, working as a teacher and a part-time manager at a preschool. So I applied, and a year later, at 27 years of age, I found myself in a humid hotel conference room in Florida, sitting with a group of about 70 others headed to a number of island nations in the Eastern Caribbean. I won't be able to begin to encapsulate what those 2 years held for me, but I can say that my heart broke wide open over and over again as I stumbled through my role as Peace Corps preschool teacher trainer in Grays Farm, Antigua. I was awakened by and struggled with culture and history. I thought I went into the Peace Corps to be of service to others, but as any Peace Corps volunteer will tell you, we gain far more than we can ever give. I learned from my preschool students a plethora of lessons, what it is to be poor and what it is to be rich, and all the nuances of those words. I began to understand what it might be like to live in black skin, and what it meant to live inside my white skin, what it is to have privilege, and what it can feel like to live inside and outside of that. I learned from my co-teachers and neighbors what it is to have mighty internal strength, how to bend like the palm trees do when the hurricane winds come, and come they did. I definitely had not expected to experience a major hurricane, the worst Antigua had had in decades. We had just finished 6 weeks of on-island training, encompassing everything from the triangle trade of slaves, sugar, and rum, to contemporary Caribbean culture, calypso, and Antiguan dialect. That's when Hurricane Lewis arrived, and it turned Antigua upside down. This happened as we were about to begin our assignments. Our new focus became finding ways to help in rebuilding our communities in which we'd eventually be serving. Clearing glass, nails, and galvanized sheet metal from the school play yard and re-roofing the preschooler were places to start. I quickly realized that roofing would never be in my skill set. I learned from Miss Douglas, the market vendor and friend, what it means to value time and what it takes to nourish a community and grow good fruit. I learned from my supervisor, Mrs. Chittick, the gifts of passion and the strength of purpose. I learned from Enid, neighborhood watch and friend, the embrace of acceptance and the letting go of fear. I learned from my young neighbors that doors are not meant to be locked and that houses are meant to be filled with the smell and sharing of good food, stories, and fun. Sidebar, I often found my young friends, Kim, Glenn, and Aaron, already inside my house when I arrived home, enjoying the refuge and interesting treasures that they found inside. I learned from Shannon, my dear Peace Corps volunteer friend, and for a time, housemate, how to try to let go of expectations and how to live inside the joys and the disappointments that arrived each day. I learned that I love the sounds of roosters and donkeys, making their donkey and rooster noises, even if it was at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. And with Stephen by my side, we learned together. Through it all, we'd seek the adventure and the quiet. We'd try to make sense of the pain and the beauty we were witnessing. We'd take it all in. Endless talks about everything from how to cope with corporal punishment, island politics, to what it means to be alive, to adventuring on frequent bike rides, nighttime beach swims, and open-heartedly experiencing the excitement of visiting neighboring islands communities, including an erupting volcanic island. Ultimately, I learned what it is to open myself up to a lifetime of love.
Wow. After hearing Amy's experience, it should be clear how I fell in love with this deeply feeling and broadly thinking soul. My journey into the Peace Corps seemed so much less dramatic. Sure, I too was following a dream I had nourished since my high school days to live and serve in foreign lands. And I too had traveled and settled and made a life for my slightly older self. And I too was leaving friends and family and other comforts with my 80 pounds and 2 suitcases to head overseas. But I didn't really see it that way. I saw that events in my life had finally arranged themselves to afford me the opportunity to travel overseas while putting to use my newly acquired skills from graduate work I had completed in mathematics education and the university teaching I had done with that degree. It didn't hurt that I could defer my student loans for another 2 years. In Antigua, I was assigned to a post-primary school in the south of the island to assist in the math program there by helping to prepare the students for their exit exams, which, if passed, would allow them to proceed to secondary school. This school had had no success in passing their students on to secondary school for a number of years, and so these children at 16 years of age would become school leavers and would not receive any more formal education. I was excited to engage with them creatively to turn this record around. Ultimately, I was successful in getting these students to pass their exams, but it was not through creative programming. This, I soon discovered, was not going to be allowed in the rigid environment of the archaic chalk and talk dispensed curriculum. I found this inflexibility, along with the still in use corporal punishment, very disturbing. Witnessing this form of discipline, these beatings, shook me to the core. I could not remain in that environment if I were to keep my sanity. Thus, I arranged to teach at the community college for my second year of service, a place I felt my math teaching skills would be of more use and in which I fit better. Another project I was able to develop utilized my love for nature by becoming deeply involved with the local environmental awareness group, an organization of folks committed to preserving what was left of their island's natural habitats. This work, unfortunately, brought me into conflict with the development-oriented government, but with the passion and direction of the core members, I was able to continue contributing to this important work as well. Peace Corps life had its challenges, its conflicts, and its unique learning experiences and opportunities for growth. And as is often the case when struggles are shared and overcome together, bonds are formed. With all of this and much, much more, I discovered on this idyllic and complex 108 square mile drop in the ocean, rising from the depths of my being, the trust and desire to dive fully into the love I had found and formed with Amy.
Before we sing our closing song, Answering the Call of Love, I really wanted to thank the participants today, especially Randy for bringing this beautiful idea to us about love being more than romantic love. This answering the call of love through service is a beautiful reminder of how UUs think about and act on love. And I loved all the speakers, including Catherine, a new member, talking about how being loved in our fellowship was a really important thing that drew them here, even through the COVID time. So thank you all for answering the call of love in your own way. And everybody now, please join me in singing, Answering the Call of Love. The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
Hi, Linda Johnson again. I too was a Peace Corps volunteer, or a PCV as we call ourselves, and I served from 2012 to 2014 in the Republic of South Africa as an HIV prevention coordinator. One of the things I learned in the Peace Corps is what it feels like to be American and to not be American. In America, we are so productivity driven, better, faster, quicker, cheaper. And through the mango tree meditation, my village colleagues taught me that I do have value even when I'm not constantly producing as we would consider it. Today, when I was asked to read the covenant, like Stephen, I was really struck with how our covenant could easily be the covenant of the Peace Corps. PCVs leave our families, go to foreign lands, not to get rich, but to share our love, talents, and skills in service to others. PCVs make a 2-year commitment to this work, becoming one with their communities and recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The Peace Corps purpose is right in its name, to promote peace in the world. PCVs listen deeply to their village friends, setting aside judgments, and learn about what has meaning for our communities, all with the purpose to help others. Please join me in reading the UUFCO covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. If you've lit your chalice at home, now is the time to extinguish it as our service comes to an end. On today, Valentine's Day, go in peace, be well, and be loved.